Hello, I'm Joe.
And I'm Jack.
And today we're going to tell you about the 6 top secrets we've learned from our collective 11 years in the bike industry.
That's right, Joe and I, we are in the hands of Big Bike. We are in the Cycling Illuminati, and we're going to tell you the top secrets you need to know.
We love reading all of your comments on the BikeRadar YouTube channel. But if there's one thing we've learned in the past few years is that people are sometimes suspicious of the bike industry. Common complaints are that the bike industry are just trying to sell you more bikes. They are. And that all innovation is just marketing and nothing else.
Well, in this video, we are going to address those rumours, and we're going to tell you which ones are true and which ones simply are not. And we're also going to tell you which ones matter and which ones do not.
We'll also share a little bit about what we've learned along the way, and hopefully this might help you in the future.
Now, before we crack on with the show, if you want to see more tucked in t-shirts, crushed shirts, neck beards, bad haircuts, yellowing teeth, the whole works, do not forget to like, subscribe, and click that little bell icon. So every time we upload a video like this, you will get a notification. Now for our first secret, it is true. The more you spend on a bike, the less you're going to get.
When I first started riding, I truly believed that the quality of the bikes increased with the amount you pay. After 6.5 years of working in the bike industry, I now know different. From my experience, there seems to be certain price level jumps that can really make a difference. The first one, £500 to £1,000, that really makes a difference. Then around the £1,500 mark to £3,000, you get another really good jump in performance, with components and frame sets that can pretty much match what the pros are riding.
Moving beyond that though, say from £3,000 to £5,000, you're going to be getting as good as it gets really in the industry. But you know, 10 grand bikes are not unheard of these days, and doubling from 5 to 10, you're really not going to get masses more in terms of out and out performance. Now, as with many industries, this all becomes a kind of law of diminishing returns, where you have to spend exponentially more to get marginally smaller and smaller gains in performance.
Think of it a bit like your cycling fitness when you first start riding. When you start, it's really easy to make big gains in performance. See Jack here. But when you get up to the levels of a pro, you have to do so much more training to make even a tiny little bit of gain.
Now, this isn't to discredit superbikes or say that they have no place in the industry, because that tech which is developed at the very high end usually trickles down to the lower end, where people like you and me can actually afford it.
And even though the gains at those prices are really marginal, for some people they still matter. But for Jack and I, if we were lucky enough to have 10 grand in the bank to burn, I think we would both buy a £3,000 to £4,000 bike and spend the rest on a cycling holiday or something like that.
So much better value for money, and to be honest, even that 3 to 4 grand mark, a 2 grand bike would fill our needs more than well enough, and we'd be much better off spending that money and doing something fun.
Oh please, yeah, please ride like that.
Riding this.
Go, 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 go! Go, go, go!
Now on to secret number 2. It may be tempting to start with everything when it comes to upgrading your bike, but there is one place in particular that I can tell you, almost guarantee you, that you will be able to improve the performance of your bike, and that is by upgrading your tyres.
They are the only contact on the road or the trail, and they have the biggest effect in determining the quality of your ride.
Now, ride quality alone isn't the only thing that will be improved, but if you are going to, on the roadside for example, more supple tyres, it just feels nicer alone, but they'll also be much faster usually. Cheaper tyres which are more puncture proof, which tends to be what's spec'd in OEM bikes, tend to be a little bit heavier with more sturdy carcasses, and they just won't have that kind of super supple, fast rolling ride quality. So moving to a lighter weight, more supple overall tyre will make a big difference to how your bike rides.
I think we've all found when testing, if a bike's feeling a little strange, sometimes all you need to do is change the tyres and it suddenly brings out all of the performance in it.
So if you've got yourself a shiny new bike, as we've said before, forget everything else. Go with the tyres first. It is the biggest and best upgrade you can make, and I think it'll make a real difference to your ride quality. And don't pump them up to 100,000 PSI and run 23s, because they are rubbish.
Secret number 3. Bike companies are full of riders just like you and I. Jack and I have been on plenty of press launches for new bikes, and what we usually find is that the brands are full of riders that are just as passionate about riding as us.
Yes, when we go to our annual Cycling Illuminati meeting, you are very unlikely, I dare say, almost certainly not going to meet someone who's a truly bad person. Whether we like the products or not, the brand managers or designers or people that have worked on these products, they want to hear our feedback and they want to work with us. There's nobody out there who is intentionally trying to sell you a truly bad product.
They really like to hear our questions. Jack is particularly good at asking tricky questions, which can kind of make people have to go to their spec sheets for a while. But yeah, normally they're really interested to hear what we've got to say.
Quite often as well, these people tend to be former racers, so they might have valuable insight that Joe or I might not necessarily be able to bring. Now, of course, like any industry, there are going to be exceptions, but honestly, I've never gone on a press launch and thought this person is trying to shill me something for the sheer sake of selling it. Brands are full of riders, and at the end of the day, they want to make good products that Joe and I, you, and everyone else will hopefully enjoy.
The rough and tumble of professional racing can be a true hotbed of development at the cutting edge of performance, where gains are so hard fought that marginal improvements really can be the difference between winning and losing.
And with that in mind, having a career and not.
But I expect few of you watching this video, with the exception of you, Geraint, really push their equipment to the absolute limit.
Now, we will always take the time and will enjoy ogling at the very cutting edge of tech. In reality, for all of us, Joe and I included, athletes as we are, we'll typically find that kit that strikes a good balance between longevity, ease of use, comfort, performance, just that kind of good balancing ground is going to serve us much better and critically get us out on our bikes more. Now, honestly, ask yourself this: what is a better investment? Some silly go fast ceramic oversized pulleys, or a bag full of mid-range cycling kit that's going to cover all conditions of riding? What's going to get you out on your bike more, and overall, what's probably going to make you faster down the line?
Although, if you do want ceramic everything on your bike, you be you, we salute you.
Just because the pros are doing something doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the best thing for you. Instead, you should turn to handsome, trustworthy, well-dressed bike testers from the likes of BikeRadar.com for advice on what is the best kit for you and your needs. The Di2 now. Oh, you're a good guy.
Point number 5. The bike industry sometimes gets it wrong, but usually they're right.
Development in bike tech moves at a rapid pace, and inevitably amongst that, there's going to be some development dead ends. Now, just because you bought into these doesn't necessarily make you a bad person or doesn't make your choices bad, but there are some places where the industry has perhaps got it wrong.
One that springs to mind for me now is probably plus tyres for mountain bikes. At the time, maybe 3 years ago, the industry went mad for them. There were lots of bikes coming out with plus tyres.
Now, in our own independent testing, we had young Seb go off and test it, and he found that while there were some advantages to plus tyres, for the most part, they didn't really suit all circumstances. The one thing I would say though is if you look at kind of trends in mountain bikes in particular now, and road bikes to a certain degree, things have moved towards chunkier, higher volume tyres. So while plus tyres have influenced them, as a concept on their own, they're a bit of a dead end.
Another one, but thankfully it seems that we might be getting through it, bottom bracket standards.
Yeah, we've gone through hell with bottom bracket standards, frankly, but now things are settling down where, funnily enough, we started off with the good old threaded bottom bracket with only a handful of little changes in there. We moved wholesale from very good threaded bottom bracket solutions to various press fit solutions with seemingly a different standard for every different bike manufacturer. But funnily enough, we're going full circle back to threaded bottom brackets where they are now heralded as some great technical innovation, when in reality what we had was actually pretty good to start with. Now, the reason brands moved to press fit are quite varied, but for the most part there was an argument around reducing costs in manufacturing. Threaded bottom brackets are harder to make and they do have a bit of a weight penalty. But as we, I'm sure, can all say, press fits do have some serious disadvantages, particularly for a home mechanic, and I'm so glad that the industry has admitted we got it wrong and we're going back.
But as we said at the start, while they do get it wrong, very occasionally, most of the time, the bike industry gets it right. And if you have plus tyres, don't worry. If they work for you, that is fantastic and that is all that matters. We salute you.
Now on to our final secret, and it's perhaps the most important. Yes, bike brands who produce bikes are trying to sell you more bikes.
Well, yes, obviously they are. They're businesses, they need to make profit, so that is what they're trying to do. But that isn't necessarily a bad thing.
bike brands may come out with new products at what feels like a dizzying rate, but just remember that because something new is on the market does not automatically make what you have irrelevant.
And whilst most cycling technology will eventually get superseded, for example, 26-inch mountain bike wheels, there is an amazing second-hand market where you can find some great bargains if you're sticking to older tech.
In fact, I would argue as well that the majority of older tech is even supported at a manufacturer level. You can still go out and buy a 5-speed freewheel if you want. Yes, it won't have the same number of choices available as years gone by, but those products are still being produced. So while choice may eventually diminish as time goes on, you must remember that all this progress does mean that we've got some really good improvements in bike tech in the last couple of years. Cheaper carbon bikes, bargain cycling kit, which I would say argues the top end stuff from only a couple years ago, wireless group sets, all of this stuff comes because people are out there buying bikes, and eventually, one day, hopefully, it will trickle down to be something that all of us can afford.
Just like everything on this list, there are exceptions, and we've both in the past winced at a few products that have been released which didn't quite cut the mustard.
But they really are just that. They are exceptions. There are very few products being released today which we think are truly abysmal from the get-go, and progress is normally a good thing for cycling.
Now, I think we can both totally understand how it can be really frustrating when you buy a new product and an even newer one comes out weeks later, but remember, if you enjoy what you're riding, that is all that matters. Although, if you do disagree with us on any of these points, don't forget to let us know in the comments.
We'll be reading them from our Cycling Illuminati branded Ferrari.
So that is our list, and hopefully it gives you a bit of insight into our experience in the bike industry.
Now, if you have any questions about the cycling industry, where we buy our snappy threads from, who cuts Joe's hair, anything at all, let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and
click that little bell icon so that every time we upload a video, you get a notification. Goodbye!